30. Black celebrities who died too soon. They had it all: fame, talent, and the world at their feet until everything came crashing down. From mysterious deaths and fatal gunshots to heartbreaking accidents and silent battles with illness. These are the shocking stories of 31 black celebrities who left us far too soon. Some were rising stars. Others were icons, all gone in the blink of an eye. Their endings weren't just tragic, they were unforgettable. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is Legends of Black Excellence, and today we're diving into the most devastating losses in Black Hollywood history. Merlin Santana. Merlin Santana was a rising actor whose natural charisma and on-screen charm made him a standout figure in 1990s Black television. Born on March 14, 1976 in New York City. To Dominican parents, Santana began acting as a child, earning early roles on shows like The Cosby Show and Moesha. However, it was his performance as the slick, smooth-talking Romeo on The Steve Harvey Show that catapulted him into widespread recognition. Viewers admired his wit presence and the undeniable chemistry he shared with the cast. At only 26, Santana appeared to have his entire career ahead of him. But on November 9, 2002, his promising journey came to a devastating halt. While sitting in a car in Los Angeles with his friend actor Brandon Adams, Santana was ambushed and shot in the head. He died instantly. The gunman, Damon Andre Gates, was acting on a false accusation made by 15-year-old Monique King, who had wrongly claimed that Santana had assaulted her. Her boyfriend Brandon Bynes and Gates took it upon themselves to retaliate without verifying the facts. Following a high-profile trial, Gates received a life sentence, while Bynes was sentenced to 23 years. King, who set the tragedy in motion, served time in juvenile detention. Yet no punishment could undo the irreversible damage caused. Merlin's death struck a nerve in the entertainment world. He wasn't just another actor. He was a symbol of youthful energy, discipline, and rising excellence in Black television. His murder was a sobering example of how easily falsehoods can destroy lives and futures. Though his career was short-lived, his legacy endures in the roles he left behind, and the painful reminder that truth matters especially when lives are at stake. Lloyd Avery II. Lloyd Avery II. Born June 21, 1969 in Los Angeles, California, was once seen as a promising face in urban cinema. His breakout role came in John Singleton's acclaimed 1991 film Boys in the Hood, where he portrayed a cold, menacing gang member responsible for a pivotal on-screen murder. Ironically, that role would become an eerie foreshadowing of the path his real life would take. Avery stood out for his brooding intensity and raw authenticity, but despite his early momentum, he struggled to sustain a stable career in Hollywood. As roles became scarce, Avery drifted into a troubled lifestyle that mirrored the violence he once only pretended to portray. In 2001, he was arrested and later convicted for the double homicide of 2 people in Los Angeles. The charges shocked fans and former colleagues, many of whom remembered him as quiet and introverted off-screen. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole and placed in California's Pelican Bay State Prison, one of the harshest correctional facilities in the nation. On September 4, 2005, Avery met a tragic end behind bars. His cellmate Kevin Roby, a convicted Satanist and self-proclaimed religious extremist, murdered him in a gruesome, ritualistic killing that stunned even prison authorities. Lloyd Avery II died at 36. His talent wasted, his legacy darkened. His story is a chilling cautionary tale of how unresolved personal demons combined with lost direction can lead even the most gifted into ruin. He went from portraying street violence to becoming engulfed by it, ultimately consumed in a real-life horror more tragic than any film. His name remains a somber footnote in Hollywood, a man who couldn't escape the shadows he once acted out. Lisa Left Eye Lopez. Lisa Nicole Lopez, widely known as Left Eye, wasn't just a member of TLC. She was the group's fearless soul. Born on May 27, 1971 in Philadelphia. Pennsylvania Lisa was a trailblazer whose artistic vision, unapologetic attitude, and unique vocal presence helped define 1990s R&B. Alongside Tion T. Boz Watkins and Rosanda Chili Thomas, she helped craft mega hits like Waterfalls Creep and No Scrubs, all while delivering lyrics with an emotional rawness few could match. Known for her eccentric fashion, bold persona, and creative fire, Lisa quickly became more than just a pop star. She was a cultural icon, outspoken about social issues, and deeply committed to spiritual growth. Behind her rebellious image, however, was a woman on a personal quest for healing. Following legal troubles and time in rehab, she sought peace in Central America, frequently visiting Honduras to reconnect with nature and pursue spiritual renewal. In April 2002, Lisa returned to Honduras with a film crew to document her journey. On April 25th, while driving a rented SUV on a rural road, she lost control of the vehicle. The crash claimed her life instantly. She was just 30 years old. Shockingly, the fatal accident was captured on the documentary footage she had hoped would tell a different story, one of transformation and rebirth. Her death sent shockwaves through the music industry and her devoted fan base. Lisa Lopes was more than a performer, she was a visionary, often ahead of her time. Her loss left a void in the world of music and culture that remains palpable. Though her life ended in tragedy, her legacy endures through the fearless honesty of her lyrics, her creative spirit, and the powerful message of self-expression she lived every day. Tupac Shakur. Tupac Amaru Shakur, born June 16, 1971, was more than a rapper. He was a firebrand poet, activist, and philosopher who used music as a weapon of truth. Raised in the shadows of the Black Panther movement and schooled in performing arts, Tupac developed a razor-sharp awareness of social inequality. Through tracks like Brenda's Got a Baby, Keep Your Head Up, and Changes, he confronted systemic oppression, poverty, and racism with fearless vulnerability. Tupac's artistry was matched only by his complexity. He embodied contradictions, fierce yet gentle, rebellious yet introspective. Albums like Me Against the World and All Eyes on Me became instant classics, selling millions and cementing his place as a generational voice. But fame came at a steep cost. His outspoken nature and defiance earned him admiration and enemies. Entangled in legal troubles, feuds, and the intensifying East Coast-West Coast rivalry, he became a magnet for controversy. On September 7, 1996, after attending a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, Tupac was shot multiple times in a drive-by attack. He succumbed to his injuries 6 days later on September 13th. He was just 25. The case remains unsolved, fueling decades of speculation and conspiracy theories. Tupac's death wasn't simply a loss for hip-hop. It was a cultural wound. He represented hope for the marginalized and a challenge to oppressive systems. His unapologetic authenticity and political edge made him a legend in life and martyr in death. Today, Tupac's legacy lives through his music, poetry, and activism studied in universities and echoed in movements for justice. He wasn't just taken from the world too soon, he was taken while he was changing it. The notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace. Christopher George LaTorre. Wallace, famously known as the Notorious B.I.G., or Biggie Smalls, redefined hip-hop with his cinematic storytelling and effortless flow. Born May 21, 1972, in Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood, Biggie rose from a difficult upbringing to become the king of East Coast rap. His debut album, Ready to Die, 1994, delivered gritty, honest narratives of urban survival and ambition, paired with unmatched lyrical finesse. Known for his deep baritone and masterful rhyme schemes, Biggie transformed personal pain into poetic brilliance. Songs like Juicy Big Papa and Warning weren't just hits, they were cultural touchstones that offered both glamour and grim reality. Guided by Sean Puff Daddy Combs and the burgeoning Bad Boy Records, Biggie became a towering figure in music almost overnight. Despite his success, Biggie was increasingly caught in the dangerous crossfire of the East Coast-West Coast feud. Tensions escalated after the 1996 murder of Tupac Shakur, with speculation swirling around both coasts. Less than 6 months later, on March 9, 1997, tragedy struck again. While leaving a Los Angeles industry party, Biggie's SUV was ambushed by an unknown gunman. He was shot 4 times and pronounced dead at just 24 years old. Biggie's murder, like Tupac's, remains unsolved, another wound in hip-hop's history. His death ended a meteoric rise that promised even greater things. His sophomore album, Life After Death, was released posthumously and became a classic, debuting at number 1. Christopher Wallace left behind more than platinum records. He left behind a blueprint for lyrical excellence and emotional depth in rap music. In just a few years, he influenced the entire genre. His voice, both thunderous and introspective, continues to resonate. He lived ready to die, but the world wasn't ready to lose him. Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Benjamin Martin wasn't a celebrity in the traditional sense. He didn't perform on stage or act in films. But his death at the age of 17 shook the very foundation of America's conscience and launched a movement that changed the course of civil rights in the 21st century. Born on February 5, 1995 in Miami Gardens, Florida, Trayvon was a typical high school junior. He loved aviation sports and video games. On February 26, 2012, during a visit to his father's fiance's home in Sanford, Florida, Trayvon walked to a convenience store to buy a can of iced tea and a bag of Skittles. On his way back, he was followed by George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer who falsely assumed Trayvon looked suspicious. Despite being told by police not to pursue Zimmerman, confronted the unarmed teen. Moments later, Trayvon was fatally shot, his only crime being a young black boy wearing a hoodie in the wrong place at the wrong time. Zimmerman was later acquitted, a verdict that sparked national outrage and heartbreak. Trayvon's killing became the catalyst for the birth of the Black Lives Matter movement. His name became a rallying cry in protests, art, and political debates across the globe. He didn't choose fame, but it was thrust upon him, his story highlighting systemic racism, racial profiling, and the value placed on black lives in America. Trayvon Martin was a son, a friend, a dreamer. His life was filled with potential. Though his voice was silenced far too early, his legacy lives on in legislation and activism, and in the hearts of those continuing the fight for justice. He represents a generation's demand to be seen, heard, and treated with dignity. XXXTentacion. José Dwayne Ricardo. Onfroy, known professionally as XXXTentacion, was a raw magnetic force who captured the angst and vulnerability of an entire generation. Born on January 23, 1998 in Plantation, Florida, he rose to fame through SoundCloud, crafting a style that fused emo rap, punk, and lo-fi soul. His breakout singles like Look at Me Sad and Moonlight revealed an artist grappling with inner demons and emotional torment. Behind the music, José's life was stormy. His career was dogged by serious allegations and legal issues, including charges of domestic violence. Yet even as critics condemned him, fans found something deeply human in his pain. He spoke openly about depression, loneliness, and trauma, topics often taboo in hip-hop, and became a voice for youth battling mental health struggles. In 2018, he appeared to be turning a new page. He donated to domestic violence shelters, launched mental health initiatives, and promised change. His sophomore album debuted at Numb, 1 on the Billboard charts, proving his massive cultural reach. But just as he was beginning this new chapter, tragedy struck. On June 18, 2018, while leaving a motorcycle dealership in Deerfield Beach, Florida, José was ambushed by 2 armed men in an apparent robbery. He was shot multiple times and died at the scene. He was only 20 years old. XXXTentacion's death reignited debates about redemption, accountability, and the complexity of public figures. He was both loved and loathed, a paradox that defined his brief but seismic impact. While his actions remain controversial, his influence on music and youth culture is undeniable. His lyrics still echo in playlists and social media, serving as both confession and catharsis. Gone at 20, José. Onfroy remains one of hip-hop's most haunting cautionary tales, a blazing talent dimmed before its full reckoning. Pop Smoke. Born Bashar Baraka Jackson on July 20th, 1999. Pop Smoke was a Brooklyn rapper who lit up the drill scene with a voice and presence that felt far older than his years. His breakout track Welcome to the Party turned heads in 2019, followed by Dior, a hypnotic anthem that became a cultural lightning bolt. Just 20 years old, Pop Smoke's music embodied raw energy, confidence, and a hunger that resonated far beyond New York. Raised in Canarsie, Pop brought his Caribbean roots and East Coast swagger to a genre that had found early footing in Chicago and the UK. In less than 2 years, he became the face of Brooklyn drill, collaborating with major artists and appearing destined for superstardom. His debut mixtapes Meet the Woo and Meet the Woo 2 charted internationally, and his fanbase grew exponentially with every release. But just as his ascent began to peak, tragedy struck. On February 19, 2020, while staying in a Hollywood Hills rental home, Pop Smoke accidentally posted his address online in an Instagram story. Hours later, a group of intruders broke in during a robbery. He was shot and killed, dying on the scene. He was just 20. Pop's death was devastating not just for music lovers, but for an industry that had barely scratched the surface of what he could offer. Posthumously, his debut studio album Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon topped charts globally, proving his influence was only growing. In his short life, Pop Smoke broke through regional and genre barriers. His voice became the sound of a movement, and his potential was limitless. His murder remains a chilling reminder of how fame, when combined with exposure and envy, can have fatal consequences. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke wasn't just the architect of soul music, he was its first superstar. Born on January 22, 1931 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and raised in Chicago, Cooke began singing gospel with the Soul Stirrers before making a groundbreaking leap to secular music. With a silky voice and lyrical elegance, he released timeless hits like You Send Me Cupid and the hauntingly prophetic A Change Is Gonna Come. Cooke's crossover appeal was revolutionary in the 1950s and 60s, drawing black and white audiences alike. He was among the first black artists to own his own record label and publishing rights, demanding autonomy in a racially biased industry. A close ally of civil rights leaders like Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X Sam used his platform to fight injustice on and off the stage. But his remarkable rise ended abruptly on December 11, 1964. At just 33 years old, Cooke was fatally shot at the Hacienda Motel in Los Angeles by the manager Bertha Franklin. The official version claimed self-defense that Cooke, intoxicated and enraged, had broken into the office after a dispute with a woman. But questions lingered. The investigation was swift, the evidence muddled, and many friends, family, and fans believed he was targeted due to his wealth, political affiliations, and rising influence. His death, still surrounded by suspicion, robbed the world of a voice that had just begun to reshape it. Cooke's legacy lives on in every socially conscious ballad and every black artist who demands ownership of their art. A Change Is Gonna Come has become an anthem for movements seeking justice. Sam Cooke left more than music. He left a model for integrity, courage, and purpose. Though his end remains clouded in doubt, his impact is as clear and lasting as any note he ever sang. Aaliyah. Aaliyah Dana Houghton was more than a rising star. She was a cultural shift in motion. Born January 16, 1979 in Brooklyn and raised in Detroit, Aaliyah entered show business early, appearing on Star Search and touring with Gladys Knight. At just 15, she released her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, produced by R. Kelly, and instantly became one of R&B's most captivating young voices. Known for her ethereal beauty, whisper-soft vocals, and futuristic style, Aaliyah redefined what it meant to be a pop and R&B artist in the 1990s. Her sophomore album, One in a Million, produced by Timbaland and Missy Elliott, revolutionized the genre with its edgy beats and cool sensuality. Hits like Try Again, Are You That Somebody, and More Than a Woman solidified her as a global icon, blurring the lines between street soul and high fashion. Beyond music, Aaliyah's film career was soaring. She starred in Romeo Must Die and had signed on for multiple upcoming projects, including the Matrix sequels. But on August 25, 2001, tragedy struck. After filming a music video in the Bahamas, Aaliyah boarded a private plane overloaded with equipment. Minutes after takeoff, the aircraft crashed, killing all 9 aboard. She was only 22. The crash investigation revealed shocking negligence. The pilot was unqualified and had traces of cocaine and alcohol in his system. Aaliyah's death wasn't just a loss. It was a preventable tragedy. Her absence left a void in music, fashion, and film. Aaliyah was poised to define the next decade. Today, she's remembered as a trailblazer whose style, sound, and spirit continue to inspire. Her name still evokes awe, reminding us of brilliance interrupted, a once-in-a-generation talent whose wings were clipped just as she began to soar. Michael Kenneth Williams. Michael Kenneth Williams brought a rare and unflinching depth to every role he inhabited. Born on November 22, 1966 in Brooklyn, New York, Williams rose from hardship to become one of the most respected actors of his generation. His signature facial scar, the result of a bar fight in his 20s, only enhanced his presence, making him unforgettable on screen. His breakthrough came with The Wire, 2002-2008, where he played Omar Little, a gay shotgun-wielding stick-up man who lived by his own moral code. Omar became one of television's most iconic characters, praised for challenging stereotypes and injecting humanity into a world of crime and corruption. Williams followed with standout performances in Boardwalk Empire, When They See Us, and Lovecraft Country, earning multiple Emmy nominations. Behind the scenes, Williams battled lifelong demons. A survivor of abuse and addiction, he often used his platform to advocate for mental health awareness and prison reform. Despite his fame, he remained deeply connected to his roots, mentoring at-risk youth and speaking openly about his struggles. On September 6, 2021, Williams was found dead in his Brooklyn apartment. The cause, a fatal overdose of fentanyl-laced heroin. He was 54. The news stunned fans and colleagues not only because of the loss, but because of how much more he seemed destined to do. Williams's death highlighted the deadly reality of America's opioid crisis, particularly its toll on Black communities. Yet even in tragedy, his work lives on. He brought dignity to the damaged, truth to the troubled, and power to the voiceless. Michael K. Williams was not just a character actor. He was a vessel for lived experience, emotional honesty, and social commentary. His absence is deeply felt, his legacy indelible, and his performances forever unmatched. Whitney Houston. Whitney Elizabeth Houston was born on August 9, 1963 in Newark, New Jersey, and was destined for greatness. The daughter of gospel singer Cissy Houston and cousin to Dionne Warwick. Whitney's voice was nothing short of celestial. With a vocal range that soared effortlessly across octaves, she delivered soul-stirring anthems like I Will Always Love You, Greatest Love of All, and How Will I Know. Her 1985 debut album became the best-selling debut by a female artist at the time, and she went on to sell over 200 million records worldwide. Whitney didn't just dominate the music world, she broke through in Hollywood too, with a stunning film debut in The Bodyguard 1992, which featured the highest-selling movie soundtrack of all time. She became the first Black woman to reach such heights in both industries simultaneously. Her influence transcended genre, race, and generations. But behind her angelic voice was a turbulent life marked by addiction, a volatile marriage to Bobby Brown, and the relentless pressure of fame. As her public appearances became erratic, concern grew. Despite repeated attempts at rehab and recovery, the struggles persisted. On February 11, 2012, the world was shocked when Whitney was found unresponsive in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel hours before a pre-Grammy party. She was 48. The coroner ruled her death an accidental drowning with heart disease and cocaine use as contributing factors. Whitney's passing was not just the loss of a musical icon, it was the shattering of a once-in-a-lifetime gift. She had redefined what it meant to be a black female superstar. Her voice remains eternal, echoing through time as both triumph and tragedy, a reminder of beauty burdened by pain and of light lost to inner darkness. Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Aaron Boseman was a man of quiet power, whose talent and dignity left an indelible mark on cinema and culture. Born on November 29, 1976 in Anderson, South Carolina, he studied theater at Howard University under Phylicia Rashad's mentorship and trained at Oxford through her support. That foundation of craft and integrity shaped his every role. Boseman made history portraying real-life black icons with soul and grace. Jackie Robinson in 42, James Brown in Get On Up, and Thurgood Marshall in Marshall. But it was his role as T'Challa in Marvel's Black Panther 2018 that catapulted him into global stardom. The film wasn't just a blockbuster, it was a cultural revolution. Boseman's portrayal of a noble African king inspired millions and shattered stereotypes in Hollywood. What the world didn't know was that behind the scenes, Boseman was fighting for his life. Diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2016, he continued to film major projects between surgeries and chemotherapy. He kept his illness a secret, choosing instead to focus on his craft and uplifting others visiting terminally ill children, even as he battled the same disease. On August 28, 2020, the world was stunned by news of his passing. He was only 43. The shock wasn't just over the death, it was in realizing the grace and strength he had shown through his silence. Chadwick Boseman's legacy is one of resilience, purpose, and quiet heroism. He represented the best of black excellence not just in what he portrayed on screen, but in how he lived. Though he never sought pity or applause for his personal struggle, his courage now defines his legend. He was our king both in fiction and in life, and his roar still echoes long after the curtain fell. Natina Reed. Natina Tijuana Reed was more than just a member of the R&B group. Block, she was its creative heartbeat. Born on October 28, 1980 in New York and raised in Atlanta, Natina exuded a fierce, fearless energy that made her stand out. With her tomboy-style raspy voice and lyrical confidence, she brought edge to the girl group that gave us hits like Bring It All to Me and 808. Often compared to Lisa Left Eye Lopes, who mentored her and co-signed Block, Natina carved her own space with a raw authenticity that resonated with fans. In addition to her music career, she dabbled in acting, playing a sassy cheerleader in the cult classic teen film Bring It On 2000. But her ambitions didn't stop there. She was a writer, a producer, and a mother determined to expand her creative vision and reignite her place in the industry. In 2012, Natina was preparing for a comeback. She had begun working on solo material and reuniting with Block. But on the night of October 26th, just a day before her 33rd birthday, tragedy struck. While walking near a highway in Duluth, Georgia, she was hit by a car. The impact killed her instantly. The driver was not charged, and details surrounding why she was in the road remain unclear. Natina's death was sudden and heartbreaking, a painful reminder of life's unpredictability. She had begun the next chapter of her artistic journey filled with purpose and renewed focus. While she never got to share that evolution with the world, her voice style and fearlessness still echo in early 2000s R&B culture. Natina Reed wasn't just a star, she was a spark. And even in her absence, that fire hasn't gone out. Stephanie Mosley. Stephanie Mosley was a dazzling performer whose talent, discipline, and glow made her a rising star in both dance and television. Born on February 14, 1984 in Vancouver, Canada, Stephanie trained as a professional dancer from a young age. Her hard work paid off. She performed alongside global superstars like Beyoncé, Britney Spears, Janet Jackson, and Chris Brown. On stage, she was electric, graceful, sharp, and magnetic. Her transition into acting was equally promising. Stephanie landed a leading role on VH1's Hit the Floor, where she played Asha, a confident, ambitious dancer navigating the glamorous but cutthroat world of professional sports entertainment. Her natural charisma and ability to convey emotion made her a standout, and she quickly earned praise for her range and screen presence. But behind the success was a private world of emotional strain. Stefani was married to rapper Earl Hayes, and though they were known as an entertainment power couple, their relationship was marked by turmoil. Friends noted a tense dynamic, though the couple often appeared united in public. On December 8, 2014, tragedy erupted behind closed doors. In the early hours of the morning, Stefani was shot multiple times by Hayes in a murder-suicide inside their Los Angeles apartment. She was just 30. The incident was allegedly triggered by suspicions of infidelity, though the full truth remains murky. Her death stunned Hollywood. Friends, fellow dancers, and fans mourned a woman who radiated kindness and passion, someone who had so much more to give. Stephanie Mosley's story is not only a loss to entertainment, but a stark reminder of the silent dangers many face behind seemingly perfect lives. Her legacy lives on in every performance. She gave a body that spoke volumes and a spirit that danced even louder. Stephanie was a star in motion gone far too soon. Lamont Bentley. Artemis Lamont Bentley was a gifted actor whose natural talent and magnetic presence brought warmth and humor to millions of households. Born on October 25, 1973 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, he moved to Los Angeles as a teenager to pursue his dream. That dream materialized when he landed the role of Hakeem Campbell, the lovable, street-smart neighbor on UPN's Moesha. From 1996 to 2001, Bentley became a familiar face and fan favorite, known for his comedic timing, expressive eyes, and heartfelt delivery. Off-screen, Lamont was deeply devoted to his family and remained grounded despite the fame. He had a strong work ethic and a desire to take on more challenging roles beyond the teen sitcom world. He also had a passion for music and was pursuing a career as a rapper at the time of his death. Friends recall his ambition to break out of typecasting and redefine himself as a serious actor and artist. But tragedy struck on January 18, 2005. After attending a screening in Los Angeles, Lamont was driving on Highway 118 in Ventura County. While navigating the road at high speed, he lost control of his vehicle, which veered off and rolled down an embankment. He was ejected and died at the scene. He was only 31. The entertainment world mourned the loss of a talent just beginning to stretch his wings. Lamont Bentley's death was not front-page news, but it left a lasting void for those who had grown up watching him. His portrayal of Hakeem offered joy and relatability, particularly to Black youth, who rarely saw themselves represented with such sincerity. Bentley was more than a sidekick, he was a beacon of possibility. A young Black man who broke into Hollywood only to be taken before he could show the world everything he was capable of. Florence Griffith Joyner. Florence Dolores Griffith Joyner, affectionately known as FloJo, was the fastest woman in history, a record that still stands over 3 decades later. Born December 21, 1959 in Los Angeles, California, she grew up in a large family and began running track at a young age. Her career exploded at the 1988 Seoul Olympics, where she won 3 gold medals and 1 silver, stunning the world with not only her speed, but also her vibrant personality, colorful bodysuits, and signature one-legged leotards. FloJo was more than just a track star, she was a fashion icon, a role model, and a bold statement of Black excellence on the world stage. Her 100-meter record of 10.49 seconds, set in 1988, remains untouched. She was a trailblazer in every sense, refusing to be confined by expectations of what a female athlete or a Black woman should look or act like. Following her retirement, FloJo remained in the public eye, dabbling in fashion design, acting, and philanthropy. She was also a devoted wife to fellow Olympic gold medalist Al Joyner and a loving mother to their daughter. But on September 21, 1998, the sports world was rocked by her sudden passing. At just 38 years old, Florence died in her sleep from an epileptic seizure. The news came as a shock to fans worldwide. An autopsy revealed no illegal substances, and her family confirmed she had been diagnosed with epilepsy in the early 1990s. Her death sparked both grief and renewed admiration. FloJo had defied gravity convention and limits. Though she left the track long before her time, her legacy remains unshakable, not just in the record books, but in every young girl who dreams of flying. Florence Griffith Joyner didn't just run fast, she soared. Prince Rogers Nelson was not just a musician, he was a revolution. Born on June 7, 1958 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Prince blurred every line imaginable musical genres, gender expectations, fashion norms, and industry rules. A prodigy who wrote, produced, and played nearly every instrument on his albums. He broke out in the late 70s and exploded into superstardom with 1984's Purple Rain, a film and soundtrack that changed music and cinema forever. With timeless hits like When Doves Cry Kiss, Little Red Corvette, and 1999, Prince fused funk rock, R&B, and pop into a sound uniquely his own. But beyond the music, he was a cultural renegade, fighting for artists' rights, challenging the status quo, and doing it all in heels, eyeliner, and fierce independence. Yet behind the flamboyant persona and relentless innovation was a man quietly suffering. Years of physically demanding performances took a toll on his body. Chronic pain compounded by hip issues led him to rely heavily on prescription opioids, a reliance that turned deadly. On April 21, 2016, Prince was found unresponsive in an elevator at his Paisley Park estate. The cause, an accidental overdose of fentanyl, a synthetic opioid far more potent than morphine. He was 57. The world mourned a creative force who had defied every rule only to be undone by the hidden agony he never publicly acknowledged. His death underscored the dangers of America's opioid crisis and the stigma surrounding chronic pain. Prince's influence is immeasurable. He redefined what it meant to be an artist, fearless, unboxed, and fully in control. Though the world lost his genius too soon, his artistry, activism, and audacity continue to light the path for future generations. Heavy D. Dwight Arrington. Myers, better known as Heavy D, was one of hip-hop's most beloved figures, a joyful presence who helped take rap mainstream without losing its soul. Born on May 24, 1967 in Mandeville, Jamaica, and raised in Mount Vernon, New York. Heavy D made his mark as the frontman of Heavy D and the Boys, with hits like Now That We Found Love, Somebody For Me, and Nuttin' But Love. He brought an infectious energy to the scene, fusing New Jack swing with smooth rhymes and pop appeal. Heavy D wasn't just a rapper, he was a cultural bridge. He introduced a fun, positive image to hip-hop at a time when the genre was often viewed as aggressive or dangerous. He celebrated romance, self-confidence, and style, helping the genre break into the mainstream without compromise. He also made notable contributions behind the scenes, championing other artists, acting in films and TV, and eventually becoming a record executive. But in the later years of his life, Heavy D began to battle quietly with health issues. On November 8, 2011, after collapsing outside his Beverly Hills home, he was rushed to a hospital and pronounced dead. The cause was a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that traveled from his leg to his lungs, complicated by deep vein thrombosis and heart disease. He was only 44. His passing sent ripples through the industry. Fans and peers mourned not just a performer, but a big-hearted innovator whose smile and sound shaped a generation. Heavy D left behind more than records. He left warmth, inclusivity, and a reminder that hip-hop could uplift as much as it could energize. In an industry full of bravado, Heavy D stood out by simply being kind, talented, and unapologetically himself. Bernie Mac Bernard. Jeffrey McCullough, better known as Bernie Mac, was a comedic powerhouse whose sharp delivery and unapologetic honesty made him a legend. Born on October 5, 1957 in Chicago, Bernie's rise wasn't easy. He worked odd jobs before making his mark on the stand-up circuit with a fearless style that dared to say what others wouldn't. His breakthrough came on Def Comedy Jam, where his iconic "I Ain't Scared of You" performance cemented him as a force in black comedy. Bernie's brand of humor was bold, real, and often drawn from his tough upbringing on Chicago's South Side. He brought that rawness to television with The Bernie Mac Show 2001-2006, a sitcom loosely based on his life. The series earned him a Peabody Award, 2 Emmy nominations, and widespread acclaim for presenting a black father figure who was strict-loving and deeply human. His film career also flourished. From Ocean's 11 to Mr. 3000, and guess who? Bernie showed range, charisma, and impeccable timing. Audiences loved him for his authenticity. He didn't tell jokes, he told truths. But behind his booming laughter, Bernie quietly battled sarcoidosis, a rare autoimmune disease that inflames the lungs. Though he rarely spoke about it publicly, the illness gradually wore him down. On August 9, 2008, after complications from pneumonia, Bernie Mac passed away at age 50. The world lost more than a comedian. It lost a truth-teller, a father figure, and a man who turned pain into joy. Bernie Mac made us laugh until we cried, and in doing so, reminded us of the strength found in humor. His absence is still felt in every punchline that dares to speak boldly. Michelle Thomas. Michelle Doris. Thomas radiated warmth on screen, a gentle beauty with a magnetic smile and heartfelt performances that made audiences feel like they knew her. Born on September 23, 1968 in Brookline, Massachusetts, Michelle was the daughter of jazz saxophonist Dennis Thomas of Kool and the Gang. Her artistic path seemed destined from the start. She first gained attention playing Justine Phillips on The Cosby Show, but it was her role as Myra Monkhouse, Steve Urkel's quirky and lovable girlfriend on Family Matters that made her a household name. Her portrayal was memorable, sweet, and subtly layered, giving the show emotional depth and innocence amidst the laughs. Off-screen, Michelle was deeply spiritual, practicing Islam, and maintaining a quiet, humble life despite her fame. She was known for her kindness, her strong values, and her close-knit circle of family and friends. In 1997, her world changed when she was diagnosed with a rare form of stomach cancer, intra-abdominal desmoplastic small round cell tumor. She fought courageously, undergoing multiple surgeries and treatments while keeping her illness largely private. Despite her declining health, she continued to uplift others with grace and positivity. On December 23, 1998, Michelle Thomas passed away surrounded by loved ones. She was just 30 years old. Her death devastated fans who had watched her grow up on screen. She left behind not just a body of work, but a legacy of quiet strength and dignity. Michelle Thomas didn't need a long list of credits to make a lasting impact. She shined with sincerity and soul in every moment she was given. Her story is one of grace under pressure of youth, taken too soon, and of a light that continues to shine softly in the hearts of those who remember her. Otis Redding. Otis Ray Redding Jr. was the kind of artist whose voice could move mountains, rich, raspy, and bursting with emotion. Born on September 9, 1941 in Dawson, Georgia, Redding began his career singing in churches and local talent shows before breaking into the national scene in the early 1960s. His blend of Southern soul gospel roots and raw honesty gave birth to timeless classics like Try a Little Tenderness, I've Been Loving You Too Long, and These Arms of Mine. Redding's stage presence was electrifying. He didn't just perform, he preached, sweated, and poured his soul into every lyric. By the mid-1960s, he was dubbed the King of Soul, earning widespread respect across racial and musical lines during a time of deep national division. He was also a gifted songwriter, penning hits for himself and others at Stax Records. But just as his crossover breakthrough was taking hold, tragedy intervened. On December 10, 1967, Otis and members of his band, the Bar-Kays, were en route to a concert in Madison, Wisconsin, when their small plane crashed into a frozen lake. Redding and 6 others died on impact. He was only 26. The heartbreak deepened when just days after his death, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay recorded 3 days before the crash was released and became his first #1 hit. It was a song that revealed a more introspective side of Otis, hinting at new artistic directions he would never get to explore. Otis Redding's legacy is one of passion, progress, and purpose. He died just as he was poised to change the shape of modern music forever. But in every aching note he left behind, his voice continues to soar, full of yearning soul and a spirit that refuses to fade. Minnie Riperton. Minnie. Julia Riperton possessed a voice so ethereal it seemed almost otherworldly. Born on November 8, 1947 in Chicago, Illinois, she began her musical journey as a backup singer for Chess Records, where she worked with legends like Etta James and Ramsey Lewis. But it was her solo career, and especially her 1975 chart-topping single Lovin' You, that etched her name into music history. With a vocal range spanning 5 octaves, Riperton was known for her use of the whistle register, a rare ability that set her apart from every other artist of her time. Her sound was delicate, yet powerful, airy, yet emotionally gripping. Beyond Lovin' You, she released several albums that blended soul, jazz, and pop with lyrical vulnerability and artistic innovation. At the height of her career, tragedy struck. In 1976, at just 29 years old, Minnie was diagnosed with breast cancer. Despite a mastectomy and treatment, the disease metastasized. She bravely went public with her diagnosis, becoming one of the first celebrities to speak openly about breast cancer, and served as a spokesperson for the American Cancer Society. Even as her health declined, she continued to record music and perform, delivering hauntingly beautiful songs infused with love, hope, and melancholy. On July 12, 1979, Minnie Riperton passed away at the age of 31. Her death was a devastating loss to music, especially given how much more she had to share. She left behind her husband, composer Richard Rudolph, and her young daughter, future actress and comedian Maya Rudolph. Minnie Riperton's legacy lives on through her unmatched voice, her courage, and her enduring influence on vocalists across generations. She sang about love with a purity few have ever matched, and though her time was brief, her sound remains eternal. Robin Harris. Robin Harris wasn't just a comedian, he was a cultural force in the making. Born on August 30th, 1953 in Chicago, Illinois, Harris built a name for himself with a unique style that blended streetwise humor, family anecdotes, and razor-sharp wit. With his deep voice, expressive face, and unfiltered delivery, he captivated audiences by turning everyday observations into riotous stand-up routines. He gained widespread acclaim in the late 1980s with his signature Bebe's Kids bit, a hilarious tale of unruly children that became a comedic phenomenon. That routine was so beloved, it was later turned into an animated film released posthumously in 1992, making Harris the first stand-up comic to inspire an animated movie based solely on his material. Robin's film career was just beginning to take off. He brought his charisma to big-screen roles in Do the Right Thing, 1989, Harlem Nights, 1989, and House Party, 1990, stealing scenes with minimal screen time. Critics and fans alike saw him as the next great comedic actor, poised to follow in the footsteps of Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. But on March 18, 1990, after performing at the Regency West in Los Angeles, Harris died suddenly of a heart attack in his sleep. He was only 36. The comedy world was stunned and devastated. Robin Harris's death was not only a loss of talent, but of untapped potential. He had finally broken through the Hollywood glass ceiling and was preparing to headline major projects. Friends and fans still mourn what could have been the films never made, the characters never brought to life. But in every story told at a barbecue, every uncle with a quick comeback, you can hear echoes of Robin Harris. He was real, raw, and unforgettable, a legend in the making, gone before his masterpiece. Charmaine Maxwell. Charmaine Maxwell, a founding member of the Grammy-nominated R&B group Brownstone, helped define the sound of 1990s soul music. Born on January 11, 1969 in Guyana and raised in Los Angeles, Maxwell brought warmth and vocal strength to a group known for its emotional power and vocal precision. Brownstone's debut album, From the Bottom Up, 1995, spawned the hit If You Love Me, which earned the group a Grammy nomination and became an enduring R&B classic. With her distinctive tone and radiant presence, Maxwell quickly became a standout. Brownstone, signed under Michael Jackson's MJJ music label, was part of a new wave of female R&B acts who emphasized real vocal talent and lyrical honesty. At a time when image often overshadowed skill, Maxwell and her bandmates offered a refreshing return to soulful substance. Following the group's early success, Maxwell stepped away from the spotlight to focus on motherhood and personal growth. Though no longer a household name, she remained connected to music and was working on solo material in the 2010s. Tragically, on February 28, 2015, Maxwell died after an accidental fall at her Los Angeles home. According to reports, she fell backward while holding a wine glass, which shattered and caused a fatal wound to her neck. She was only 46. The freak accident shocked fans and the music industry alike. Her death was as sudden as it was senseless, leaving behind her husband-producer, Karsten Schock Soulshock, and their young son. Those close to her described her as vibrant, loving, and full of life. Charmaine Maxwell's voice lives on in the timeless harmonies of Brownstone. She may not have dominated headlines in her final years, but her impact remains in every powerful chorus and every woman who found strength in her voice. Tara Correa McMullen. Tara Correa McMullen had just begun to shine when her life was tragically cut short. Born May 24, 1989 in Westminster, Vermont, she moved to Los Angeles as a child and fell into acting almost by chance. At just 15 years old, Tara landed a recurring role on the CBS drama Judging Amy, playing Graciela Reyes, a troubled teen involved in gang activity. Her performance was hauntingly authentic, earning praise for its emotional depth and maturity well beyond her years. What many didn't realize at the time was how closely Tara's on-screen character would mirror elements of her real life. As her acting career showed promise, her personal world began to spiral. She started dating an older gang member, and despite her talent and potential, became entangled in a dangerous crowd. On October 21, 2005, just months after turning 16, Tara was shot and killed outside an apartment complex in Inglewood, California. She had gone there to visit friends when a known gang member opened fire. Tara was hit multiple times and died at the scene. The shooter, Damian Watts, was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Her death left Hollywood stunned. Tara was a teenager with immense promise, a young woman whose breakout role hinted at a long and powerful career ahead. Instead, she became another name in a growing list of youth lost to senseless violence. Tara's story is a heartbreaking reminder of how easily potential can be lost when young lives intersect with danger. Though her time was brief, her performance on Judging Amy remains a chilling testament to her gift and the tragic irony of a role that ultimately mirrored her own fate. Cameron Boyce. Cameron Boyce was more than just a Disney Channel star. He was a beacon of positivity, compassion, and limitless talent. Born on May 28, 1999 in Los Angeles, California, Cameron entered the entertainment world early, appearing in music videos and commercials before landing his breakout role as Luke Ross in Jessie, 2011 to 2015. With natural charisma and impeccable comedic timing, he became a beloved face in children's television. He later starred as Carlos in Disney's Descendants franchise, winning over global audiences with his energy, humor, and charm. Whether dancing, acting, or giving interviews, Cameron radiated joy. But what truly set him apart was his dedication to giving back. Deeply passionate about philanthropy, he co-founded the Wielding Peace campaign and supported the Thirst Project, helping bring clean water to underserved communities. Privately, Cameron was living with epilepsy, a condition he managed quietly and courageously. On July 6, 2019, just weeks before the release of Descendants 3, he passed away in his sleep due to a seizure caused by Sudep's sudden unexpected death in epilepsy. He was only 20 years old. His unexpected death devastated fans, co-stars, and fellow artists. Tributes poured in from across the world, honoring not just his work, but his generous spirit and moral clarity. Cameron had used his platform not for vanity, but for impact. Though his career was just beginning, his influence is far-reaching. The Cameron Boyce Foundation, created by his family, continues his mission of social justice and youth empowerment. He lived with purpose, loved without hesitation, and left behind a legacy that inspires others to act with kindness. Cameron Boyce wasn't just a young star, he was a leader in the making. And though he's gone, his light continues to guide. Chance Perdomo. Chance Perdomo was a rising star whose energy, intellect, and depth captivated both audiences and critics. Born on October 19, 1996 in Los Angeles, but raised in the UK, Chance carried a unique blend of American charisma and British polish. After training at the Identity School of Acting in London, he burst onto the scene with his breakout role as Ambrose Spellman in Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. As the witty pansexual warlock, he brought nuance, humor, and vulnerability to a show teeming with magic and mythology. Perdomo stood out not just for his talent, but for his curiosity and activism. He often spoke about the importance of representation and using storytelling as a tool for change. Whether on screen or in interviews, he came across as wise beyond his years, someone who viewed fame as a platform, not a destination. He was also cast in Gen Phi, the spin-off of Amazon Prime's hit series The Boys, where he quickly earned praise for his performance as Andre Anderson, a magnetic young superhero. Just as his global recognition was expanding, tragedy struck. On March 30th, 2024, Chance Perdomo died in a solo motorcycle accident. He was only 27. Authorities confirmed no drugs or alcohol were involved, just a devastating collision that took a brilliant life far too soon. His death rocked the entertainment world. Co-stars and fans remembered him as kind, disciplined, and deeply thoughtful. The roles he played were just the beginning. His potential felt infinite. Chance Perdomo wasn't just another rising actor, he was a storyteller poised to influence culture. His absence is a deep and painful loss, not just for what he achieved, but for the greatness he was on the verge of delivering. Eazy-E. Eric Lynn Wright, better known as Eazy-E, revolutionized music as the frontman of NWA, a group that gave voice to the brutal realities of life in Compton, California. Born on September 7, 1964, Eazy began as a street hustler before founding Ruthless Records and assembling the group that would change the face of hip-hop forever. Alongside Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, MC Ren, and DJ Yella, he helped craft Straight Outta Compton, an explosive album that introduced gangsta rap to mainstream America. With his nasal tone, unapologetic lyrics, and entrepreneurial mindset, Eazy-E became a lightning rod for controversy and a legend in the process. Songs like Boys in the Hood and Real Motherfucking G's weren't just music, they were unfiltered portraits of systemic racism, police brutality, and inner-city survival. Though NWA eventually fractured, Eazy remained a significant solo force and continued to shape the industry by discovering and supporting new talent. But in early 1995, he was hospitalized for what he believed was asthma. Doctors soon diagnosed him with AIDS, a revelation that shocked the hip-hop world and challenged stereotypes about the disease. On March 26, 1995, Eazy-E died of AIDS-related complications. He was just 31. His passing was more than tragic. It was historic. He became one of the first major hip-hop figures to die from AIDS, prompting much-needed conversations about health, sexuality, and stigma in Black communities. Before his death, he urged others to educate themselves and be careful using his final moments to speak truth. Eazy-E left behind a blueprint for independence in hip-hop and a legacy that lives in every artist who speaks truth to power. Ruthless, raw, and revolutionary, he didn't just rap about the streets. He changed them. Naya Rivera. Naya Marie Rivera was a radiant performer, a triple threat talent whose beauty, voice, and charisma made her unforgettable. Born on January 12, 1987 in Valencia, California, Naya began her career in the spotlight at just 4 years old, appearing on shows like The Royal Family and Family Matters. But it was her role as Santana Lopez on Fox's Glee that made her a global star. As Santana, Naya delivered biting one-liners, powerful vocals, and one of the most groundbreaking portrayals of a queer Latina character on network television. She infused the role with authenticity and turning what was initially a supporting part into one of the show's emotional anchors. Her performance earned praise for its complexity and helped countless young fans feel seen and understood. Off-screen, Naya was known for her candor, her humor, and her deep love for her son, Josie. She published a memoir in 2016, Sorry Not Sorry, in which she detailed her struggles and triumphs, including battles with depression, industry rejection, and personal reinvention. She never pretended to be perfect, which made her even more beloved. On July 8, 2020, tragedy struck. Naya disappeared while boating with Josie on Lake Piru in California. After a desperate 5-day search, her body was recovered. Authorities concluded she had mustered the strength to lift her son back onto the boat before drowning herself. She was only 33. Naya's death was a profound loss, not only of a gifted actress and singer, but of a young mother whose final act was one of selfless love. Her bravery in those last moments became her legacy. Naya Rivera's story is one of resilience, power, and sacrifice. She lived boldly, loved deeply, and left behind a light that will continue to shine through her son, her fans, and her unforgettable performances. Their lives were brief, but their brilliance endures. From actors to activists, singers to athletes, these 31 Black legends didn't just entertain, they transformed culture, broke barriers, and left echoes that still shape our world. Their untimely deaths remind us of life's fragility, but also of the power of legacy. Which story moved you the most, and why do you think their voices still matter today? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence as we continue to honor those whose lights still shine even after goodbye.